My name is Sarah, and I've been sober for 2.5 years. My sobriety date is March 23rd, 2018. I lived with my mother. My parents separated when I was very young. My dad was an alcoholic, very chaotic on his, with anything to do with our relationship. But my mom was just worked very hard and did her best to provide for us. She doesn't drink or use. My drug of choice, gateway, was alcohol, and that led me to other things. Primarily, it became pretty synonymous with cocaine. Initially I was afraid of them. I didn't drink until I was 21, but once I did realize that it was somewhat of a freeing feeling, it gave me a sense of relief from a lot of feelings of depression, anxiety, from just emotions I couldn't process, things that had occurred in my life that I couldn't make sense of, and loss of people who I loved. So it was freeing to me. I don't know, I felt like the world kind of lit up, and I took that first drink of alcohol. I don't even remember what it was. I was with friends I didn't know that well for my 21st birthday. But I do remember just suddenly feeling like anything was possible, that I would notice people in a different way that they noticed me. I felt like that shy person that I was like an illusion. Then why did I accept this illusion my whole life, And so I became very vocal and fun. I felt like my sense of humor came out. People liked me, and I could express that I liked other people. All the things that you think life should be like, I just felt like took over me like a wave for the first time in 21 years. And it just felt like I was me. I've seen experiences to probably one of the more jarring experiences for me was being at a place and out with friends and seeing a woman drop to the ground. And for me, I was loaded at the time, and I had somewhat of that anything is possible kind of thing. And when she dropped to the ground and no one was helping her, I went over to her, and I remember just feeling this feeling come over me that I was the person to help her. And she was laying in my arms, and she was seizing, and I was trying to help her, but so I helped her through that. I was not in any capacity should I have been ever putting myself in that situation, but it's just the madness of the drugs and the alcohol is just where you're not thinking that, you're not able to correlate those things. But I remember just talking to this woman, and she's saying that she's in so much pain and she wants to die. And I remembered some things that I had heard from my childhood, and I felt that I was being directed to just pray with her, even though I was not in the place to do that. I feel like there is a God that will use us in some of our darkest places. And I prayed with her, and I was able to just kind of comfort her in that space. But and I kept her heart beating. I remember taking her pulse and reporting it to the paramedics, and then she was in my arms and said she wanted to let go, and I said if she wanted to let go, then that would be okay. But I remember her taking her last breath in my arms, and just as the paramedics came, and I stood up, looked around, and I just felt stone cold sober. And I was just like, what the heck are you doing here, And I gave what I knew to the paramedics, and I just ran away. And it was just in a moment like that, I realized that either something bigger than me had happened, or I was placing myself in situations that were incredibly dangerous. And it just was a wake-up call for me. My drinking took me to pretty dark places, and I finally started dating someone who drank like me and wasn't going to give me trouble like I did, who wasn't going to say anything about how I used and what I did with my time. And this person became very abusive, to the point where I was sleeping in my car. I was looking out from under a blanket, thinking people were going to come after me. But I was at the point when I was drinking that I was committing suicide in blackouts. So I would wake up in my own blood, and I would wake up very, in a very, very compromised positions. I started to scare myself. And one time I woke up from a blackout with my wrist slit, and I ended up calling the cops, running. This probably saved my life, that I ran from the situation I came to in with my wrist slit, and then I called the cops. They took me to the hospital. And while in the hospital, I kind of started to see what situation I had put myself in, and I told them, if you don't let me go, or if you don't put me out, I'm gonna run. And I had already changed clothes. I kept my shoes on. They were like, no, like, you can't leave. We're not gonna give you anything, thinking I was drug seeking, but I was just panicking. And the nurse left, poor lady, and I ran too. I ran out of the hospital, and I ran across town, probably like 5 miles in hospital clothes. On the way home, I stopped and smoked a cigarette with 2 guys in the street. And like, I ran away I woke up like a couple days later. Like, I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember getting home, and I just woke up in hospital clothes, covered in my blood. And I knew how something needed to change, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to get that thing. And I hit my knees, and I just cried out to God, like, to save me. And I had not been on the best terms with God, but I didn't care, and I think that's the point when I knew that I was going to be answered. Like, I knew that I was going to be answered because I started calling people who would actually help me, instead of continually asking someone who was going to give me a break and buy me the next drink and say, it's all right, it's a rough time right now. I called my mom, and she flew my sister to come pick me up, took me away from the abusive situation, and I'll never forget putting that on my little sister. But that's the way God showed up for me, and I could not go back after I left with her. Yeah, after I went to my mom's house, after they came and got me, I stayed in bed for 2 weeks, and I realized, like, I can't live like this, and I can't go back there, and I didn't know what to do. And actually, in an effort to save my job, I called a therapist who referred me to a treatment center here in Orange County. And I honestly didn't want to go, but I didn't want to stay at my mom's. Like, there was no way I could do that. So I drove myself to home, packed up everything in my apartment that I was living in, and was picked up there, and ended up going to treatment. I don't know exactly what made me do it. I just knew something had to change. Like, I at that point had too clear of a recognition of what I had done to the people who loved me, and what I had physically and mentally done to myself, that I could no longer continue what I was doing. Well, I went to a 30-day program, 2 weeks in. This is like a treatment center that it's kind of holistic, like helps you to understand a little bit more about yourself, give you some tools to cope, and there's therapists and counselors, and but I think the most helpful thing for me was their encouragement that I find a woman who could help me and walk me through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she told me to find a God, and that if someone was going to help me, like, it would be God, and I better find him now. So I did everything that woman told me. I called her every day. If she gave me another suggestion, homework to do, I did it. And that woman had 30 years of sobriety, so she was 2 when I was born, or she was 2 when I was born, and then I met her 30 years later, and that woman is my sponsor today, and she has saved my life. She's taught me to be the woman that I am today. She's taught me to help other women. She's helped me develop my relationship with God in ways that I never even thought was possible for someone like me. And she tells me to, that the key to this thing is that I turn and give to other people, that I help other people. And I don't think that I would have stayed sober if she hadn't encouraged me, number one, to pay attention, and two, to help somebody else. Yeah, even if you're hurting, even if life is hard, if you got the biggest problem right in front of your face, like, God works through people and he works through circumstances, and she tells me to get to work. Most proud of myself for? I get the opportunity to do service work and to help other people today. I don't think that's anything necessarily to be proud of, but it's the most fulfilling part of my life. I feel connected and supported in ways that I didn't think were possible for someone like me. And I don't know. I think I've got the opportunity to go back to school this year, 2020. I started a business, and I've just been able to do things I didn't think people like me would do, like, I don't have that staying power on my own will and of my own choice, but this program has taught me, and these women have taught me, and recovery has taught me to stay the course, and to trust in a power greater than myself, and not to chase the life that I think I deserve, but to chase what he has in store for me. And it's been a much more powerful and beautiful circumstance than I could have ever imagined finding myself in. I would say to don't stop seeking. Like, our experience sometimes is our greatest teacher. It's the most difficult one, but there is help, and there is a way out. It doesn't come from human aid. It comes from a power greater than ourselves, and if you seek, you will find that thing. And if you want help, it's there in abundance. It may not look like what you think it should or what you want it to be, but everything that I've gotten in sobriety has been exactly what I've needed.